My stepsister and I both fell into the sea. My husband, Julian, his face frantic, dove into the water without a second thought and swam straight for my stepsister. In the moment, I was swallowed by the waves. I remembered something from my stepsister's wedding 3 years ago. A photograph had fallen out of Julian's wallet. It was a picture of my stepsister and me, but my face was cut in half, leaving only me in the frame. Someone had joked, "Julian, you don't have a thing for Stella, do you?" After a brief pause, Julian calmly picked up the photo. "I like her sister." It wasn't until the water before my eyes turned from blue to black that I understood. All along, it was my stepsister, Stella, that he loved. When I woke up, the only person by my bed was a nurse. The smell of antiseptic was sharp and unpleasant. "You're awake," the nurse said, her voice bright with surprise. My head was still foggy, and I could only manage a slight nod. "You were in a coma for 7 days," she continued. "The other girl who fell in with you was brought in at the same time and woke up ages ago. It's strange. We thought you had a weak will to live, but you somehow survived in the ocean for nearly 24 hours. Then we thought you had a strong will, but you wouldn't open your eyes for 7 days in the hospital. We were close to diagnosing you as brain dead." I thought to myself. Of course she woke up faster. Everyone swam to her. She was rescued immediately. In the end, I never knew who saved me. All I knew was the sea turning from blue to black as the sky slowly darkened. I could only assume it was a rescue team. The nurse removed the 4-needle from my arm. "Should I notify your family? Can I ask who brought me in?" I asked. The nurse thought for a moment. "Just the rescue team was with you when you arrived. But that young woman in the next room, her whole family is here." My breath caught, and a bitter ache spread through my chest. I asked again, disbelievingly. "My husband. He hasn't been here. He's about 6 feet 1 inch. Fair-skinned." "Oh." The nurse's face lit up in recognition. "You mean that handsome man, the CEO of MS Group, Julian, right? He just arrived. He's in the room next door, with the other girl who fell. Do you want me to get him for you?" Hearing this, I forced a small, strained smile and shook my head. "No, that's all right. Thank you. By the way," I added, "when can I be discharged?" The nurse checked my chart. "I'll let the attending doctor know you're awake, and we'll check your vitals." Before she left, I asked her not to tell anyone besides the medical staff that I had woken up. The doctor came, checked my condition, and said, "You've recovered well. No fractures or serious injuries. You were just in a coma for a few days. You can be discharged." I didn't have many belongings. They all fit into a single bag. As I carried my bag down the hall, I passed the room next door. Stella was also being discharged. Inside, my father and stepmother were fussing over her. Her room was overflowing with flowers and fruit baskets, making my own seem desolate and cold. I went to handle the discharge paperwork by myself. As I was about to hand over my forms, a hand with long, elegant fingers reached past me with another set of papers. A cool voice said, "Hi, I'm checking out the patient from room 501. My heart trembled at the sound of Julian's voice. He didn't notice me. He took the papers from the nurse and turned to leave. Stella had someone to pack her bags and someone to handle her discharge. I was alone, from admission to discharge. As I was leaving, I ran into them again. Stella was surrounded by her parents and her husband, and by her side, the silent, secret admirer who also happened to be someone else's husband. I stood at the hospital entrance, waiting for a taxi. A black SUV drove slowly past me. Julian, in the driver's seat, met my gaze and slammed on the brakes. Our eyes locked. His expression was cold and sharp. The others in the car looked at me in surprise. Julian's lips parted. "Get in," I shot back. "Is there room?" A car behind him honked its horn, forcing him to drive on. A moment later, I smiled to myself. "No, thank you. My taxi is here." That brief glance from Julian took me back to the moment I fell into the sea. Everyone had rushed towards Stella's direction. Someone had screamed. Stella fell in. Julian and Ethan had both burst out onto the deck, just before I was completely submerged. I had locked eyes with Julian, but he dove in without a shred of hesitation, swimming straight for Stella. Besides him, her husband Ethan and my own father did the same. 3 years ago, at Stella and Ethan's wedding reception, The photo had fallen from his wallet. It was a picture of Stella and me, but only half of my body was visible. The rest of the frame was all Stella. Ethan's face had darkened at the sight of it. Someone had jeered. "Julian, you don't have a crush on Ethan's wife, do you?" Julian had calmly picked up the photo and replied with a thin smile. "I like her sister." My heart had skipped a beat when I heard him say that. Later, outside the restroom, I smiled and greeted him. His brow furrowed slightly. "I'm Chloe," I said. He paused for a second before it dawned on him who I was, and he gave a slight nod. It wasn't until I almost drowned that I truly understood. Before that moment, Julian had never even bothered to remember what I looked like. Claiming to like me was just a cover for his secret love for his friend's wife. Marrying me was just a way to get closer to Stella. Stella and I are a year apart. The year after my mother died. Her mother, Jane, married my father. Jane brought Stella into our home and changed her last name to ours. From that day on, I lost not only my mother but my father as well, because I threw tantrums and refused to let them live with us. My father sent me abroad when I was 6. I was only brought back when I was 17, for my senior year of high school. By the time I returned, Stella was firmly established as the beloved eldest daughter of the family. I, the biological daughter, had been forgotten. Julian, Ethan, and Stella were, for all intents and purposes, childhood friends. During my senior year, after running the 800-meter race, someone pushed me on the crowded staircase. I tumbled from the second floor to the first, hitting the back of my head and drawing blood. Someone shouted, "I think the road's eldest daughter fell." Julian pushed through the crowd, his face a mask of panic. My vision was blurry, but I saw a flicker of relief cross his face when he saw me. He then carried me to the nurse's office. After returning to the country, I was an outcast. He was the only one who had ever shown me any kindness. As he ran with me in his arms, I smelled the clean jasmine scent of his laundry detergent. That was the first time I ever felt my heart flutter. Stella was popular. Everyone saw her as the rightful Miss Rhodes, while I, Chloe, was the outsider. She had grown up here, always protected by Julian and Ethan. Now, all the confusing, blurry pieces fell into place. Even Julian's act of kindness was only because he thought the person who had fallen was Stella. That's why his expression had shifted from grave concern to relief when he saw my face. I didn't go back to the apartment I shared with Julian. Instead, I checked into a hotel and booked a room for 2 weeks. But you can't run forever. Just as I finished washing up, there was a knock on the door. A tall figure stood there, leaning against the wall, his expression cool. "Come home," Julian said. I wasn't surprised he'd found me. He grabbed my bag, closed the hotel room door behind us, and we left. I sat in the passenger seat, and neither of us spoke a word. As we waited at a red light, I thought about all the time Stella and I had vied for his attention. It was laughable. His heart had always been with her. Stella knew he loved her, too. No wonder she had looked at me like I was a clown on my wedding day. Every intimate moment I shared with Julian felt like a one-woman show. In Stella's eyes, I must have looked like a complete fool. From childhood, Stella and I had fought over everything. Princess dresses, our father's affection. I had to admit, I had lost, utterly and completely. I had gained neither a family nor love. The thought was so absurdly tragic that I couldn't help but let out a small laugh. Julian's dark eyes flickered towards me, his voice slow. What's so funny?" My smile vanished. I turned to him. "Nothing." He looked away. The moonlight spilling through the window illuminated his features. His sharp brow, clean, cut jawline, and the distinct mole on his high, bridged nose. When we got home, Julian entered the passcode and the door opened. His voice was cool and detached. "You were discharged. Why didn't you say anything?" "I didn't come to your room because you were in a coma the whole time," he explained. "It made more sense to take Stella home first." I gave a subtle, ironic smile. It's hard to accept that the man you sleep next to is in love with your stepsister. But I was too tired to argue with him. "You're busy with your company, aren't you?" "That's why I didn't say anything," I said simply. Julian didn't know that I knew about his secret love for Stella. If I ripped away that final veil of secrecy, neither of us would be able to save face. Julian and Ethan were friends. Being in love with a friend's wife would make for explosive gossip. The only person who came out a winner in this silent war was Stella. Julian was a golden child, the sole heir to his family's fortune. Ethan's family was nearly as wealthy, but Julian was handsome, more so than Ethan. I never understood why Stella chose Ethan in the end, but regardless, both men loved her. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. In the end, I was still all alone. Everything I had ever wanted, Stella got with ease. She wasn't a biological child of the family, yet everyone treated her like the true heiress. I, the one with the family's blood in my veins, was forgotten in a foreign country for over a decade. Apart from the fixed nights each month we spent in the same bed, Julian and I slept in separate rooms. We retreated to our own spaces. The next day, I went to visit my mother's grave. Perhaps it was her spirit watching over me that had allowed me to survive. Over the next few days, Julian developed a habit of getting up late at night to stand on the balcony. One night, as I got up for a glass of water, I heard him speaking softly into the phone. "Stella, I'll talk to him. You just get some rest." I drank my water and went back to bed. The next day was Stella's birthday. As usual, my family was throwing her a lavish party. My father called me while I was at my desk. "Chloe, come home for a bit. It's for your sister's birthday." I scoffed. "Sister, Mr. Rhodes. I'm an only child. My mother only gave birth to me." His voice sounded weary, aged. "Chloe, can you please not upset your father? If you don't show up, people will think Stella is mistreating you." If I used to argue with him to get his attention and his love, now I was just tired. I couldn't be bothered. "I have a meeting tonight," I said calmly. "I can't make it." The moment I hung up, Julian called. "Chloe, it's your sister's birthday tonight. Be there." I was about to repeat my excuse about the meeting when he cut me off. "I already spoke to your boss. Your meeting has been postponed." I laughed, a bitter, angry sound. "Julian, what gives you the right to make my decisions for me? I'm your husband." "Chloe," he replied nonchalantly, "and Stella is your sister. It wouldn't look right for me to go alone, especially since you're her older sister." After a long silence, an idea came to me. "Julian, if I go, will you promise me one thing?" "Fine," he agreed. When I arrived at the family home after work, the party was already in full swing. The moment I stepped inside, Ethan cornered me. "Don't even think about starting trouble," he warned. Before he and Stella got married, my father had insisted on giving her a huge dowry. I had fought it for a long time, to protect my own inheritance. I had even resorted to publicly shaming Jane and Stella at a party, calling them home wreckers. Ethan had physically hurt me then to defend Stella. His eyes were cold. "Try and cause a scene. Even without this family's backing, Stella still has my family. And you, do you really think your father will side with you?" He leaned in and whispered, "Chloe, you dare touch Stella, and you'll see what happens." I scoffed. "You're insane." Halfway through the party, I felt tired and looked for an empty room to rest. Before I could even sit down, I saw two figures. Julian's face was dark, his voice filled with anger. "Ethan, have you even considered Stella? If you can't put her first, you never should have married her." Ethan took a deep breath. "Julian, we're like brothers. I know you love Stella. I knew at the moment that photo fell out of your wallet. You married Chloe just to be closer to my wife. That's why you didn't hesitate to save Stella when you both fell into the sea." Julian let out a cold laugh, his eyes simmering with dark emotion. "Ethan, if you don't treat her right, I'll take her from you without a second thought." My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, and I couldn't breathe. Before I could react, a tall figure emerged from the room. My eyes met Julian's. His body went rigid, and a flash of panic crossed his face. Ethan was also stunned when he came out and saw me. I gave them both a polite smile, returned to the main hall to make a brief appearance, and then left. Julian reached out to grab my arm, but I stepped away, leaving his hand hanging in mid-air. As I was leaving, Stella called out from behind me, "Chloe." She stood there in a beautiful gown, a triumphant smile on her face, her arms crossed. "Don't I look beautiful today?" The jewelry was designed by Ethan himself. The shoes were picked out by Mom and Dad, and the dress, it was a gift from Julian. He said white looks beautiful on me. I looked at her, my emotions perfectly calm, and Her smile widened. Ethan and I had a fight. Before we got married, Julian told me that if I was ever unhappy, he'd be there for me. He said that besides my family, he would always be my support. Stella played a recording. A man's voice, slightly hoarse. Stella, I'll always be behind you. Stella's voice, coy and playful, replied, Julian, didn't you just say you liked my sister? Julian's voice trembled, a hint of a sob in it. If it couldn't be you, it didn't matter who I married. Stella turned off the recording. Her eyes danced with glee. Dressed in her beautiful gown, she radiated an aura of wealth and privilege. She was the star of the night. Chloe, the family fortune is mine. Your father is mine. And Julian will be mine, too. I curved my lips into a slight smile. Stella, you want Julian. He's all yours. As for the family fortune, she could forget about it. I gathered the few clothes I had at the Rhodes house and packed up all of my mother's belongings. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of a tall, slender figure in the rearview mirror. Not long after I got home, the door opened. Julian rushed in, his body tense. The usual lazy indifference in his eyes was gone, replaced by pure anxiety. I spoke first. Is the party over? You're back early. Once I realized Julian didn't love me, every past clue and detail replayed in my mind. In the end, I had to accept it. He had married me for Stella. There was no way to lie to myself. There was no heartbreak, no argument, just a sudden clarity that had washed over me as the dark waves pulled me under. From the very beginning, Julian had never loved me. I had to admit, Stella had a charmed life. Even a stepfather with no blood relation treated her better than his own daughter. She had a loving mother and 2 childhood friends, both of whom were in love with her. Everything I yearned for, she obtained effortlessly. It was only when I was drowning, watching everyone swim toward Stella, that I finally gave up. Julian's lips were pressed into a thin, hesitant line. Finally, he spoke, his voice slightly hoarse. Chloe. I looked directly into his eyes, my expression utterly calm. What is it? Ethan and Stella had a fight, he said. Stella is your sister. You should be able to understand. Understand that he was in love with his wife's sister. But I didn't care anymore. It's fine. I know, I said, as I turned to go to my room. His arm shot out and pulled me into an embrace, his chin resting on my shoulder. Suddenly, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was frantic, laced with tears. Julian. I fought with him. I'm scared. Julian's expression hardened, his brow furrowing. We stood in silence for a long moment. I gently pushed him away. Go. Don't let anything happen. Julian looked at me, his expression hesitant. I couldn't help but smile slightly. Go on. Julian didn't come home that night, but I didn't care where he went. I continued my routine, going to work, finishing on time, living a very orderly life. Before leaving work one evening, I accepted an invitation from a friend I'd met a few times, Isabel. After she had asked several times, I stopped refusing. When I arrived at the private room, I could hear laughter from inside. Come on, Julian. If you really love her, just take her. If it wasn't for Ethan beating you to it, you and Stella would probably have kids by now. Julian's brow tightened. Don't talk like that. Stella's married. It's not good for her reputation. The man speaking to Julian seemed drunk. Buddy, I'm just asking you one thing. Do you still love her or not? Julian's expression didn't change as he took a sip of his drink. He didn't shake his head. He didn't deny it. Anyone could see that he was still in love with her. It seemed Isabel and Stella were quite close. Tonight's invitation was just a way to humiliate me. I didn't go in. I stood in the doorway and made a call to my assistant. As of today, terminate all cooperation with the Lynn family. After leaving the club, I went to see a lawyer. My mother's inheritance would not go to the Rhodes family, and the share that was rightfully mine. Jane and Stella wouldn't get a single penny of it either. The next day, I drove into the Rhodes estate with a lawyer and a moving company. I directed the crew. Hello. Please follow me to the second floor to move some things. Mr. Chen, you can stay here and speak with them. The movers were professional, working quickly and without asking questions. Besides them, I had also arranged for my mother's grave to be relocated from the family plot. On the memorial tablet at the Rhodes ancestral home were the words, "To my wife, Eleanor." I wiped it carefully again and again before gently placing it in the car. It wasn't long before the couple returned. My father stormed up to me, yelling, "Chloe, what is this nonsense? Enough." I held up the tablet and smiled. "I'm just taking what belongs to me and my mother. Don't worry, Mr. Rhodes, Mrs. Rhodes. I don't want anything extra from your family, but I won't leave a single cent of what's mine for you." Before marrying into our family, Jane was a single mother in an apron with a weary face. Now, she looked like she was barely in her 30s. She stood before me, her tone gentle. "Here, give that to me. Be good. Come home. Don't make your father angry." She tried to grab the box from my hands. Inside was my mother's portrait and the jade bracelet she had left me. With a crash, the box hit the ground. My face went dark. I swung my hand and slapped her across the face. "Jane, cut the act. You crawl into your best friend's husband's bed right after she dies. You and your daughter are no better." My father rushed forward, his face livid. I stared back at him coldly. He was shaking with rage and raised his hand to strike me. Before the blow could land, a tall, broad figure stepped in front of me. "Dad, don't be angry." I picked up the shattered bracelet from the floor. The frame was broken, so I could only salvage the photograph. Julian looked at me, his eyes cold. "Chloe, stop making a scene. Let's go home." I broke free from his grasp and stood before Stella. I raised my hand to slap her without hesitation. Julian moved like lightning, blocking my hand and shielding her. He glared at me, his eyes narrowed with a fierce anger. "Chloe," I sneered. "What? Does it hurt to see her get hurt?" After my mother's grave was reinterred in a new place, a light rain began to fall. I turned and saw Julian. He was holding an umbrella over my head. I didn't resist. It was raining, after all. Once we were in the car, he said, "Chloe, why do you hate Stella?" I met his gaze. "What's it to you?" His expression was cool. "Stella and her mother haven't had it easy in your family. Stop targeting her." I stared straight ahead. "Julian, in what capacity are you lecturing me?" "As your husband," he said. An ironic smile touched my lips. At 7, I was sent to a foreign country alone. At 15, I was allowed to return for the first time. Jane was pregnant, but she lost the baby during an argument with me. I was sent away again, and my allowance was cut off. I washed dishes in a restaurant. At my lowest, I called home for money. The housekeeper told me, "Your father said if you don't apologize, you won't get a penny." I never apologized. At my most desperate, I became a test subject for medical trials, earning $3,000 a session. I only stopped when the stomach pain became unbearable and went back to washing dishes. And in his eyes, I was the one targeting Stella. All because he loved her. Everything I did was wrong. I was too tired to argue. There was no point. I brought my old things from the Rhodes house back to the apartment. I left a photograph and a jacket on the living room table. Julian glanced at the photo, and his eyes turned cold. "Where did you get this photo and jacket?" I looked at them. "They're my photo and my jacket. Where else would they be from?" The jacket was hand-sewn by my mother. A flicker of panic entered Julian's eyes. I carefully folded the jacket and put it away in a cabinet. He moved first, snatching the photo, his hand trembling slightly. I snatched it back. "Chloe, are you saying the person in this photo is you?" I nodded. "Who else?" "You." His phone rang. It was Stella's voice. "Julian, can you come over?" I fought with Ethan again. "I think he's cheating on me." Julian glanced at me, as if asking for my permission. Looking into his eyes, I said earnestly, "Go on, Julian. Don't miss out on the person you lost at 18 when you're 28. He froze, his eyes wide with panic as he shook his head. "No, Chloe, wait for me. I'll be back soon." When Julian returned, it was past midnight, which officially marked my birthday. His eyes were bloodshot, and his breath fogged in the cold air. The first snow of the year was falling. He was carrying a cake. "Happy birthday," he said, his voice trembling. I went straight to the bakery after leaving Ethan's place. I went to 10 different shops before I found one that was still open. "You always said that the first wish made on the first snow of the year will always come true. And today is your birthday." He carefully lit the candles on the cake and held it out to me. "Make a wish," he whispered. "From now on, I'll make them all come true for you." I blew out the candles. After my mother died, I never had a proper birthday. My life abroad was a struggle. I remember my 15th birthday. It was the first time I participated in a medical trial. I clutched the money, my stomach cramping in pain, but I couldn't bring myself to spend it on a slice of cake. Meanwhile, Stella's birthdays were the talk of the town. Looking at the cake, I said, "Julian, you'll make any wish come true." He nodded. I smiled. "Julian, you say I target Stella, but did you know? My mother died when I was 6. At 7, Stella and her mother moved into my home and took my place, and I was sent abroad. I came back for the first time at 15, and, because Jane had a miscarriage during an argument with me, I was sent away again, and my allowance was cut off. I remember that day was my birthday. To make money, I became a medical test subject. As the words left my mouth, Julian's hands, which were holding mine, began to shake. He took a deep breath, his eyelashes fluttering, his throat working. "Chloe, when you were 7, did you save a little boy your age? He was trapped in a fire, and you were the only one who rescued him." I had saved people, and cats too. My mother always told me to be kind. Before she died when I was 6, she held my hand and said, "Mommy is going to be a star in the sky. As long as Chloe is kind and eats and sleeps well, Mommy will be able to see you from up there." Julian's eyes were filled with a tense, desperate hope. I nodded slightly. "Yes." Suddenly, he pulled me into a fierce hug. It was so abrupt that I pushed him away. The candlelight flickered across his face, casting shifting shadows. I blew out the candles again and closed my eyes. "Julian, I have a wish," he murmured a soft "M.H.M." His voice thick with unshed tears. "I want a divorce." His face instantly turned cold. "Chloe, anything but that?" I looked at him, my expression blank. "Julian, don't forget. You promised me something if I went to Stella's party." I went. "Now I want a divorce." He stood there silently, his jaw tight. "I won't divorce you," I said coolly. "Julian, at Stella and Ethan's wedding 3 years ago, the real subject of that photo in your wallet wasn't me. It was Stella, wasn't it?" Julian's eyes were red. He squeezed them shut, and a single tear escaped. His voice was hoarse and weary. "Chloe, what if I told you that the person I was meant to love was you all along? Would you forgive me?" I looked at him, the irony stinging. "Julian, don't tell me you're going to say that the boy I saved was you, and you fell in love with me just because I saved your life." His body jolted, his eyes darkening with a bitter, hollow smile. "Chloe, all these years, I had the wrong person. The one I wanted to marry was you. Back then, I just heard someone call you the Rhodes daughter. Then you went abroad. When I met Stella at your house, she was wearing an identical red jacket. I thought she was you." A self-deprecating smile touched my lips. "Julian, I don't need you to love me anymore." When I was 17, someone shouted that the Rhodes daughter had fallen down the stairs. You pushed through the crowd and rushed me to the nurse's office. I didn't understand then why your panicked expression eased when you saw my face. I didn't understand why, at Stella and Ethan's wedding, after you said you liked me, you didn't even recognize me when I greeted you a few minutes later. It wasn't until I fell into the sea, watching you, frantic and red-eyed, swim toward Stella. In that instant, I finally understood everything. Marrying me was just a means to an end for you. I raised an eyebrow, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Besides Stella, it didn't matter who you married." His head snapped up. "That's not true." I placed the divorce papers in front of him. "Sign it. You can read the terms. This apartment is our shared property. You move out, and I'll buy out your half." "Chloe," he choked out. "Who told you that?" I narrowed my eyes. "Isn't it obvious? Whoever you said it to." "What is it?" "Julian, did Stella not want to marry you? Go talk to Ethan. The 3 of you can live happily ever after. It's fine, being the other man. It's just a bit sneaky, that's all." "Chloe, please stop," he cried. "It hurts so much." I threw the cake into the trash. "If you won't leave, I will." Julian immediately let go of me, fell to his knees beside the trash can, and, sobbing, began to pick the cake out of the garbage. "I'll go." When I went to work the next day, Ethan was waiting by my car. He smiled. I frowned, looking at him with suspicion. Our relationship was hardly one for pleasant conversation. I looked up at him impatiently. Move. Ethan shook his head. Chloe. I ignored him and opened the passenger side door, starting to climb across to the driver's seat. He called out again. Chloe. The intimate use of my first name sent a shiver down my spine. I stopped, got out of the car, and walked over to him. What is it? If it has anything to do with Julian or Stella, I'm sorry, but I don't care. Julian and I have no feelings for each other. Ethan suddenly grabbed my hand. Chloe. Divorce him. I yanked my hand away. What are you trying to say? Don't touch me. We're both married. It's not appropriate. He repeated himself. Chloe. I'm divorcing Stella. You divorce Julian. And marry me, please. I laughed. A sharp, incredulous sound. And swung my purse at his head. All three of you are insane. Is this some kind of elaborate joke at my expense? Julian appeared out of nowhere and pulled me forcefully into his arms. His expression was placid. Ethan. Chloe is my wife. Ethan snorted. Don't you love Stella? Julian. Don't you love Stella? I broke free from his embrace. Enough. You two can sort things out with Stella. Just stay out of my life. Julian. Ethan. You both make me sick. I took a deep breath. Utterly disgusting. Ethan called my name. After her birthday. I found out she'd been lying to me. When I was a kid, I had a cat. My parents traveled a lot, and that cat was the only living thing that kept me company. Some kids were torturing it, and you ran out, yelling, "Don't you hurt that kitten." If it wasn't for you, my cat would have died. When I realized it was you, she accused me of cheating. Our relationship is over. I couldn't help but find it hilarious. Within a short period, two men who had once loved Stella were now telling me they had actually loved me all along. I looked Ethan in the eye and said, word by word, you can't even tell people apart. That means you're blind. It also means you don't love me. Saving a person or a cat means I'm a good person. Not that you two are. And besides, I'm not a garbage can or a recycling bin. I don't take in just any trash. I turned, got in my car, and started the engine. I was busy taking back the Rhodes family company. The shares my mother had left me became fully mine on my 28th birthday. With them, I now held more equity than my own father. I strode into the Rhodes Industries boardroom, holding the share certificates. A smile played on my lips. From today on, I will be the one to inherit this company. Jane, sitting in the middle of the room, panicked. She frantically nudged the person next to her. My father. The lines around his eyes deeper now. Was no longer a young man. He smiled. A bitter, sad expression. He remained still. No matter how much Jane protested, she demanded. Exasperated. Arthur, you can't give everything to her. What about Stella? The other board members filed out. He looked at me, tears in his eyes. My child, I never planned to give the inheritance to anyone else. From the day your mother passed, my will has stated that upon my death, all of the family shares and properties would go to you. I have always loved you. Why did you have to make things so ugly? Embarrassing your aunt in front of the entire board. I nodded. Right. I don't need your love. What I need now is the money. Understand? A woman who crawls into her best friend's husband's bed. What kind of aunt is that? He trembled with rage. I married her and treated Stella well because, do you remember when you were in the hospital? You were sick. And it was Stella's bone marrow that saved you. That's why I married her. Even after learning the truth, I still couldn't forgive him. In the years that followed, he had truly fallen in love with Jane, betraying my mother's memory. What kind of debt of gratitude requires marriage as repayment? After joining the board, I was incredibly busy, not just stabilizing Rhodes Industries, but also expanding into new territories. One night, as I was leaving the office building after midnight, I was kidnapped. When I woke up, I saw Julian standing outside. He was roaring. I'll give you half of my shares in MS Group. Just let her go. Stella held a knife to my throat, laughing hysterically. Julian, why? Why lead me on and then abandon me? You said you would marry me. I ruined things with Ethan for you, and now I have nothing. I'll tell you what. I was the one who pulled Chloe into the sea with me. I wanted her to know that everyone loves me, not her. Do you regret it now? The person who saved you is her, and the person who almost killed her was you. Chloe, I never should have saved you. I should have let you die. In an instant, Julian lunged forward. The knife plunged into his chest as he shoved Stella to the ground. The kidnapping had been orchestrated by Stella and her mother. They were convicted of kidnapping and extortion before she was imprisoned. Ethan divorced her. I saw Julian in the hospital. The knife had missed his heart by a single centimeter. It was the first time I had visited him in the month he'd been there. His eyes were bruised with exhaustion, and stubble darkened his jaw. His voice shook with emotion. "Chloe, you came." I smiled and handed him the divorce papers. "Is there really no chance for us?" he asked. His expression reminded me of that day, of his desperation before he jumped into the sea. "Julian, do you know what it feels like to be drowning? You drink seawater until you're full. It was only a dozen hours, but it felt like days. I lost all sense of time. The ocean is so cold." In that one moment, I understood that you didn't love me. You can't imagine how hopeless I felt that day. One was my biological father, the other my husband, and neither of them came for me. Julian's eyes welled with red, and he choked out, "I'm sorry. The biggest regret of my life is losing you. The day you were discharged, I swear I was outside your hospital room every night, but the nurse said you might have lost your will to live. And for a moment, my heart ached so fiercely." He signed the divorce papers, then closed his eyes and covered his face, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. As I left the room, I saw my father and Ethan. My father approached me, his voice trembling. "Chloe, I know everything about your years abroad. It was my fault for misjudging people. I'm so sorry. Back then, Jane said the education overseas was better, that you wouldn't have to suffer. You weren't happy at home, so it was better for you to leave. I thought she made sense, but I never imagined I was ruining your life." I smiled, a genuine, releasing smile. "It's all right. I don't care about it anymore." Ethan started to follow me, but I stopped and turned to him with a cold expression. "You're all the same. You're disgusting." Later, I legally changed my last name to my mother's maiden name, Shaw. From then on, Rhodes Industries became Shaw Industries. It was no longer a part of the Rhodes legacy.